You know what great writers do? I like to read books about writers too, and writers oftentimes write the last chapter of their book first. Then they go back and construct a story that matches that to lead to it, to this glorious ending. They write the last chapter first. And so I want to encourage you to do this. If you're gonna make sure your movie plays out well, if your life is a movie, the last chapter of your movie, the last chapter of your life, what do you want people to say about you at the funeral, other than they want that when they tap you, hey, I think he's awake. You know, I mean, that's what they all want them to say, right? But when we actually pass away, when they're at our funeral, what do you want them to say? Man, that girl, that guy, man, they were a man or woman of God. They honored God. They did great things with their life. They made a difference. They were she was an amazing mother. He was an incredible father, right? They were a great grandfather, grandmother. They were great in business. They made a difference in their community. What do you want people to say about you? And it doesn't have to match what I want. It's okay. It's your life. God gave you a specific thumbprint. It means that you're unique to you. So what is it that God has put on your heart that you are to do with your life? Again, like a great author, make sure you write the last chapter first. So what does that mean? It means this. Would you write this down? Write the glorious ending first. Write the glorious ending first. I didn't know how to start a church. I didn't really have a class on that. Like, here's how to start a church. I didn't know that there was such a thing. I didn't know there was books on it until I began to ask questions. I realized, there are actually a handful of books. They don't sell much because there's not a lot of people doing that, but there were books on it. And so I read 70 books on church planting and church growth before I ever moved to town to plant a church. Just so I'd know what I was doing. And it really helped me to read all those books. After about 5 years in, I got to meet a lot of those authors who found us. Some of those authors found out who we were and that we were doing pretty well, and they would call us. I was so honored that my assistant would come in and say, hey, so-and-so just called you, and I'd be like, wait, who? I have their book. And they would say, we've been hearing about you and what your churches do. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so great. And so I want to tell you something. If you'll follow the steps of wisdom will eventually find you, if you'll just follow the steps. And so I just want to encourage you that God has great things He wants to do through you, but you have to be willing to, first of all, write the glorious ending first. So what do you want it to look like? I actually wrote a single-page document about what I thought this church could turn into. The original name was Bay Area Fellowship. I remember writing, I believe that this church can turn into over 1,000 people regularly attending every weekend within 10 years. I thought that was so bold. In fact, I was told I was arrogant for writing that down. I had local pastors here tell me, scold me and say, that is so arrogant. Who do you think you are moving to town? I was like, I didn't mean that bad. I'm just believing God. I didn't mean that in a bad way. And so I want to encourage you. Oh, and by the way, when it comes to that, when people don't like your vision, just hang in there, because I've outlasted, all those guys have all moved on. Half of them have died. The other half have moved on. So you just outlive them. You just outlive your critics. Does that make sense? Just stay with what God told you. I'm so glad I went with what God told me and not with what they told me. Because what they told me was devastating, but what God told me worked. So stick with what God tells you to do.
Thank you for watching the Church Unlimited YouTube channel. But don't stop now. Join our online family so you can stay connected with what God is doing here. Subscribe to this channel and hit the bell so that you never miss a service, and don't forget to share with a friend. You can also support the ministry by clicking the Give Now button to help us continue to impact lives around the world. Thank you for watching, and God bless.